Hey everyone, welcome back to No Way! Tell Me Everything. I am your host, Jess, and I have a very special guest with me today, as always. The lovely Kuda is with me today. Welcome, Kuda.
Thank you so much.
I'm so
Happy
happy
to be
that
here.
you've agreed to come on. I met you. I like to introduce how I know the people on my show because I am not nearly famous enough yet to be able to just invite people I don't have some sort of connection with, but I met you through our mutual friend, Andrew, who you're good friends with, back when I still worked at the agency. And you just have the loveliest energy.
Aw.
From the moment I met you, you're just such a warm, you're always smiling. At least when I see you, you're always so warm and happy. And then I got introduced to your art, and I love your art. I think it's,
Thank
for
you.
me, the type of art that you create is it conveys so much about you as a person, which is the art that I really love and I really enjoy. So yeah, I just wanted to have you on.
That. Thank you so
let's
much.
Have a chat.
Yeah. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, so tell us about you. Who are you? What do you do?
I am a dad, a husband, a hockey coach, an artist, and a copywriter. So yeah, just a bunch of different little things that I pocket into. But I'd say primarily I'm a dad, husband, and artist. I'd say those are my top three.
I mean, that's the best way to live, is to not have in my opinion, to have one road, but you have kind of all these different ways of expressing who you are, right?
Yeah, life's too broad to just be one thing, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you start expressing your art? How did you get into that?
So I guess when I was a kid, I was really, most kids are into art. And I was really, really into it when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. Then I kind of started deviating away from that and just focusing a lot more on reading books and writing a bunch. And I used to be really, really into writing. So I became a freelance writer. Then I became a journalist at a pretty young age when I was 17. I was a sports journalist. And then when I was 21, I became a political journalist and did some bits for The Guardian, ABC, SBS back home in Australia, a Huffington Post. Back then, it's now a HuffPost. All the way till 2016, worked a little bit on Bernie's campaign. And then
What? Hold on.
Yeah.
Stop for a second. You worked on Bernie's campaign?
Well, worked on as in I kind of reported parts on it and also volunteered for him when he was having the New York primary, still in the Democrat primaries. And yeah, did that for a little bit. Door knocking, picking up the phones. Did a little bit of that in Dallas as well.
Wow, I didn't know you lived in the States.
I didn't. I was just there for a few weeks. Yeah, so
oh my God.
actually, I went over for a friend's wedding and I stayed on because it just timed in with the campaign. And I've been a political nerd for so long because my dad was a politician too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Back in Zimbabwe, he was one of the founding members of the main opposition party to the ruling party back then, and he's retired now though. So yeah, I've been a nerd for American politics for an extremely long time.
Oh,
so
we can unwrap that later.
Yeah. Can always dive into that.
Yeah. What a lovely eclectic life that you've had though, with so many different types of experiences.
Yeah, and then so because I was a journalist and I was doing that at a pretty young age, I ended up it was just too much exposure to it really, without having, I guess, enough life experience or other things to really understand how to deal with all that information. So I ended up burning out, crashing out, fell into a deep depression in 2015 and 16. And then I went to see a therapist for the first time ever. And she told me, from speaking to me, she advised me to consider art as a form of therapy. And that's where it all began again. Yeah. So when I was 24, really. Was I 24 then? I'm so bad with math sometimes.
Oh, don't worry.
But yeah, around that point, that's when I really got into art and I just kept doodling and experimenting with all sorts of things. And eventually I kind of got used to making this specific style. I think when people see my work, they can recognize it's my work now. But that happened around the time that I was depressed. So a lot of my figures I paint, I don't think they're sad. Some people think or say they're sad, but they're just like expressionless.
Hmm.
And around them is a big use of color because I'm really trying to communicate through the color in terms of the feelings that I'm having. And I just kept doing that. And it became its own style. And I started working like a regular office job. And this one guy, Ange, he saw my doodles at my desk and he asked me to paint him something for money. And that's the first commission I ever had
Mm.
as a gift for his wife. His wife loved it and got 3 more commissions. And then Ange eventually took it upon himself to become my agent, my first ever agent.
Nice.
And he helped me have my first ever gallery show.
Is
And
that the
yeah,
one that I went to here, or is that somewhere else?
no, that was May 2019
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
back in
before I knew you.
Australia. Yeah, back in
Yeah.
Melbourne. Yeah. Yeah. So that was my first show ever. Yeah.
So you kind of that's like such a beautiful story because I'm
Yeah.
always telling people that you have to like follow your joy and it will align you to this path that
Mm,
you're kind of meant to be on. That's when all the opportunities start showing up for you because you're
exactly right.
following that. And it just sounds exactly like, that story. You just met this person who kind of ended up. And how was that
Yeah.
having your first gallery show? Like, if you, I mean, did you
Yeah.
imagine that? Was that what you were working towards or?
No, not at all. So like Ange knew the gallery owner and asked him for a favor to have me to have a show. And gallery owner said it's all good, but they only had a spot for a weekend and it was 6 weeks away. And at that point I think I had maybe 3 finished paintings on me. So I ended up painting a total of 29 more. So I had 32 paintings at my first show and 30 of the 32 sold. So that was really, really encouraging, but it
Yeah.
was never in my plans or anything. And I truly didn't even think that I could make that work, like to finish that many paintings because I was still working full time. Yeah. So it was, I had to wake up around 6 a.m., paint for 3 hours, go to work, come back home, paint for another 3 hours. So 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I managed to get them all done and out
But did
there
it,
to
did
the
it like, did it feel like a lot, or was it something that, like, ignited you and gave you energy because it was something you enjoyed?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. Like it
Mhm.
felt overwhelming and exciting at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
So it felt like a lot to do, but because I think I was so involved with the process of making it, I actually didn't get enough time to feel anxious about it as well. So
Mm.
I didn't really get to feel nervous about it
Yeah.
until the car ride to the gallery.
I mean, sometimes
Uh,
that's the best blessing, though, because when you have, like, what's that saying? Like, too much time to hang yourself or too much rope to hang yourself or something. It's like if you had enough time, you would start second guessing
yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just had to go. I just had to make it happen. But yeah, no, it really, I mean, to this day as well, I paint because my soul needs it. That's the main reason. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to have it as a full-time job for a bit. It's not my full-time job now just because too much responsibility. But no matter what, like even in my 80s, I'll still be painting. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
need to do it as much as I need to eat food or as much as I need to sleep at night. It's something that truly feeds my spirit.
I love
Yeah,
that.
so it's been great. I'm very grateful to my therapist. Shout out Rowan for putting me onto this path.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I love the way you talk about it. You can just hear how much it
Yeah.
means to you, right? Like, I literally was just talking about this to one of the people that I work with that
Mm.
we talk a lot about things we want to do. Like, I want to paint, for example.
Yeah.
But then you have all your brain filled with all these things you need to do. Like, I need to take out the trash, I need to vacuum, whatever. And it's really wrong, in my opinion, because we need to I mean, of course, you have to do those things sometimes, but do you actually need to do them? Because
Mm.
if you considered saying, like you said, I need to paint, this is going to bring me joy, this is going to fulfill something for me, you would be
Mhm.
more likely to do it. And I think when you have that
Exactly.
knowledge of, I think everyone needs an outlet for expression. I have about 500 because I am not blessed enough to have one that's like my full focus. So I do the dabble, but I mean, I painted last weekend because again, I just felt in my soul like I want to go out and paint in the yard, and I did
Mhm.
that. And yeah, it does feel like you have to find that thing that your soul needs, and
Absolutely.
it does ignite that in you, and it makes you want to. I don't know. I just feel like it makes life so much more enjoyable when you have
Right? And
that.
it's like it just really satisfies something. And I truly believe that every living person has that.
Mm. Yeah.
but they just may not know how to tap into it or find it.
Mm.
But I truly believe someone needs that, really, really needs that outlet to express. And I guess before, my outlet was writing for the longest time. I mean, when I
Hmm.
was a teenager, I genuinely believed that I would grow up to become an author and release a few books. By this point, I've
There's still
released
chance.
none.
There's still time. There's
Yeah,
still time, though.
there's still time. But I think writing is such a it's such an isolating experience in a way, because you need silence, you need to be alone, you need to be so focused, and you just like, it's like surgery with these words and your own internal critic. And I got lost in that as a younger version of myself. I definitely got lost in that.
I completely understand what you're saying. And
Mm,
I would say I notice in myself when I'm doing something that's fully authentically me, I don't have that feeling of surgery
exactly.
words, right? But
Yeah.
when you're feeling a need to do something or you're feeling a need to do it a certain way, that's
Hmm.
when your inner critic comes out of like, oh, because I also do a lot of writing, but I used to do it very much like trying to create a story in a certain way or trying to journal in a certain way because I
Hmm.
thought that's how I had to do it. And it just felt really performative and it wasn't
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
authentic. It wasn't igniting me. And then when I started using creative writing as my therapy,
Hmm.
so I was retelling, I didn't want basically, I don't believe in having to relive your trauma, but
Hmm.
I do believe you have to release it. So I started using
Hmm.
creative writing as a way to write out and release my trauma from a different person's point of view, from a
Hmm.
story that wasn't me. And that,
Right.
when I get into that, it just pours
Yeah.
out of me.
Right. Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's like a completely different tap that you can just open. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So do you still write right
I
now? Like
do.
to the same? Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
I do. But I find that it comes in spurts. And that's kind of, I mean, that's me in a nutshell, dude. Like that's just
Yeah.
how I live my life. Like I follow, it might be the ADHD. I'm sure other people that are not neurotypical might relate, but like
Yeah.
if I feel like I want to do something, I do that. And when as soon as it starts to drain me, I redirect in like another area that feels
Hmm.
more energetic cuz I mean, we didn't know each other when so you work at the agency I used to work at. We didn't know each
Right.
other when I
Yeah,
worked there,
whilst
but
you were there. Yeah.
yeah, I was there for 11 years and I was really good
What?
at that job. Yeah, I was there for a long time. That was the majority of my career. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I don't get me wrong, I learned
Yeah.
so much. I loved all the creative stuff. I love the people I work with. I'm still friends with most of them.
Hmm.
Um, but that was a situation where I look back and I go, gee, was I misaligned?
Mm,
Because I had mistaken there's a lot of reasons for this I'm not going to go into, but I had mistaken being really good at something
hmm.
for enjoying doing it. And
Yeah.
so I spent 11 years getting really good and climbing a corporate ladder that I
Hmm.
never wanted. And that's also where a lot of my drinking problems came in because
Hmm.
when you're unhappy with something, that's when substance abuse can kind of come in to
Yeah,
help you
creep
feel
in.
better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something so interesting you just said. Yeah, just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're meant to be doing.
No. And I feel like that's such a problem that I mean, now you're talking about how you're a dad and that's one of your main roles and your kid is
Yeah.
so cute. But, that's something that I really hammer home with my kids is like
Hmm.
do what you enjoy, not just
Hmm.
what you're good at. So, even the way I speak to them about stuff, I reframe it. Like they'll ask me, "Do you like this drawing that I made?" And I'm like, "Well, do you like it? How do you feel about the drawing that you
Hmm.
made?" Or I'll
Hmm.
say things like, I really like that you paid a lot of attention to detail here. These colors that you used are beautiful. I don't tell
Hmm.
them, like, you're really good at drawing. Sometimes
Mm.
I do. I'm not a horrible,
Yeah,
parent who
yeah, yeah.
doesn't say those things. But I don't focus the validation for them on the outcome of what they did and if
Mm.
they were good at it or not. Because if my kid is tone deaf, I don't think either of them are, but if they're both tone deaf and they love singing and they want to be a singer, you better bet that I'm going to encourage them to do that if that's what brings them
Mhm.
joy versus
Mhm.
saying you're really good at math, you should be a mathematician or
Yeah.
something with science because that's, it comes from a loving place, but that's what I experienced as a kid. So
Yeah.
instead of going into more artistic endeavors or being a vet or something, which
Yeah.
is what I would have really enjoyed. I would have had to work hard because science and math are not for me. So I would have
Yeah.
had to work hard, right? But it would probably be really fulfilling because I would have loved that job. But I
Mhm.
was told, oh, you're really good at this, this, and this, and it fits with a business profile. So you should go into business. And I just was like, okay. And then
Yeah.
I did that, and now
Yeah.
I'm trying to like get away from that.
Untangle from
And
it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
also, figuring out who the hell are you? I think
Yeah, which is
I'm a
its
very
own
different
journey as
person.
well, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that thing about like that type of parenting style where you have to be so like filled with intent of
Yeah.
understanding what you're saying and the impact that's going to have on your kids moving forward is something that I'm super grateful about, like our generation now with
Mm.
parenting, because it's certainly something that I feel I would have benefited from. Instead of thinking about the outcome so much, and it's actually a practice that I'm going to try to do for myself with my art this next year.
Hmm.
I'm going to take maybe a bit of a break from doing all these shows and such, and just like experiment and fail and
I love
just
that. I
right
love
just
that.
like just like try
Right?
something different and challenge myself.
That is something that I have gotten so good at failing.
Yeah.
And I've embraced it. Like, I just had
Yeah.
a discussion with someone where they're like, "Oh, you're not failing because you're learning." And I was like, yeah, of course. But I actually
Mhm.
like using the word fail because I want to destigmatize it within myself that it's good to fail. You're trying things, you're figuring it out. The
Yeah.
only real fail for me in my mind in a negative way is if I give up on something that I really want because I think I'm not good at it. Like, I don't give a
Mhm.
shit if I'm good at it. I'm not a good painter. I enjoy
Yeah.
it though, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that whole failing thing is something that I really want the next generation to be good at.
Yeah, to not
Think
be
of how
afraid
many
of it.
innovations and how many new ways of thinking and doing
Yeah.
things we would have if people didn't constantly temper themselves for fear of failing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Failure is something we shouldn't be afraid of it. And I have been afraid of it for an extremely long time. It's like something I'm just trying to dive into now with an open mind. But yeah,
Mm.
it's exciting. It's exciting. It's more exciting than it is scary at the moment. So yeah,
I
looking
think
forward to it.
sometimes that's also just the great thing of like, it's okay to be scared. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like, you're doing something new. Of course, it's going
Yeah.
to be scary. You don't
Yeah.
know. It's okay. It'll
Yeah.
pass. Like, eventually, it won't be new anymore. It'll be something that you know, and it's not scary anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
okay.
you just
Like,
know
the
more and more.
exciting thing is, like, that's the best part.
Yeah. That's the meat of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that for you. That's fantastic. Do you feel like you're, because you mentioned that when you originally started doing this style that you're known for now, it
Hmm.
came from when you were in depression and how you were viewing
Yeah.
the art. Do you feel like since, because I believe your life has changed quite a bit, do you feel like
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
art has evolved? Do you look at it differently and express it differently, or have you stayed with that?
I mean, I've stayed with like the signature, which is the eyes and the lips. That
Uh-huh.
has stayed consistent, but the subject matter and the styles, or even like the mediums that I'm exploring, I used to only do acrylics. Now I'm experimenting with spray paint and some oil pastels and such and such. That's changed, but the actual figures and the form has stayed pretty consistent, and that's something that I'm going to try to deconstruct entirely. Like
Wow.
I don't know what the end result of what I'm making is going to look like,
Hmm.
which is very different to how I usually operate. So I nearly always know exactly what my piece is going to look like, and it comes out looking pretty close to how it looks like in my mind.
That's going to be
And
really interesting for you because it's like going from a controlled space to a,
yeah, exactly. I'm trying to drop the control,
yeah.
and just let it go. But I think my son is 10 months old now, and he's a pretty cool inspiration for that, to just
Oh,
like get out there and just play with it. So yeah, I'm gonna try to take as much inspiration from him as possible and
dude,
learn
kids
from
are the
him.
best for that,
They're
honestly.
so awesome. They're like the
Yeah.
best artists in the world, the best scientists in the world at the same time, as they're just so cool. They're just
Yeah.
the coolest. Yeah.
The way that they think, and, I feel like my kids teach me something like
Mm.
almost like every single day, or
Yeah.
at least, sometimes I have a doom spiral in my head that's pretty
Mhm.
strong that I have to pull myself out of quite
Yeah.
often. And I feel like my kids are really good at pulling me out of that just because the way they view the world or the way they view
Yeah.
problems, it's just so
Wow.
much simpler,
Yeah. How
So
old
I'll
are
be
they now?
11 and 8. So
Oh,
yeah, they're a
perfect.
lot
Yeah.
older than your son, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the way they talk about things, the way it's like it is such a simpler view because they're children, but sometimes it just reminds you that it's not always that heavy. It's not always
Hmm.
that deep, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
can
And
have fun
sometimes
with it.
like just not worrying about the future as much as well. Just kind of being right here, right now. That is so valuable, man. And
That's going to be super valuable for you with the painting too, because you're not going to be
yeah,
already looking to the future of what you know you're creating. It's
yeah,
just what's coming out in this moment.
yeah, and just letting it live. Maybe touch on it a bit, come back to it later. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm super excited about it. So I'm gonna start that journey next month, actually.
Nice.
So yeah,
You have a
super
show
excited.
coming up next week, right?
Yeah, I got a show next week, and another show in October, and another show in November.
Well, when's
And
your shows? I think that this won't be out by the time that your September show is, but when are your shows in
yeah,
October and November?
the shows in October. I was just talking to her yesterday. Let me see what she said. The beginning of October, like the first week of October, probably. But that one is in Zimbabwe, so I won't be there physically.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm sending some work down. And the other show is here in Copenhagen in November. We haven't settled on a date yet, just because there's certain things that need to align first.
That's okay. I'm going to
Mm,
put your Instagram handle in the show
yeah.
notes so people should go
All
follow
right.
you and then they'll know.
Awesome.
Is that your first show in Zimbabwe?
No, it's actually my
That's where you're originally
fifth
from.
show. Yeah. So I was born in Zimbabwe, but I spent most of my life in Australia. So I
Okay. How
kind of
did
got
that
like,
happen?
wow. Okay. So my dad he was a leader of not the leader, sorry. He was one of the founding members of the opposition party
Yeah.
back since 1992, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And in the mid 2000s, so like 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, we had a lot of like political violence and such because I don't know if people know much about Zimbabwe, but we've
I'm
been,
going to make a flying leap that most people
yeah,
listening to this probably
yeah,
don't know. So I'm
yeah,
going to
yeah,
give
yeah.
the nutshell version.
Yeah, I'll give you a nutshell. So we became an independent country in 1980 and
Independent from,
from the United Kingdom,
yeah,
from the
the
British.
standard colonizer.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, standard. And eventually a man called Robert Mugabe took power and he started off kind of, I mean, in terms of a lot of his rhetoric or a lot of his more popular things, they were quite open, as in they weren't super, how can I say, they weren't authoritarian yet.
Okay.
So he was
Yet, I guess, being
almost,
the key word there.
yeah. He was almost seen as a Mandela type before Mandela
Mm-hmm.
for a period, a very short period. And like Bob Marley made a song called Zimbabwe as well,
Mm.
1980, and performed it in Zimbabwe because of that. So we became this kind of like beacon of hope in the world in the early 80s. And then he developed and evolved. I think there were enough signs, but like he developed and evolved to become a militant dictator for a bit. And the economy was crashing and all sorts of things. So my dad was one of the founding members of the opposition to him and his party. So it is a dangerous and violent position. And my dad got abducted and beaten up. And at some point, the ruling party was like, man, we've done this to these guys. We've beaten them up. We've abducted them. We've done all sorts of things. And they just won't stop. What else could we do? Then there was the idea of kidnapping their kids would probably make them stop. So before that could happen, I was sent off to Australia to live with my brother, who was 10 years older than me. And he became my legal guardian when he was like 24, 25. And
Wow.
so that's
That
how I
must have
ended
been a
up in
lot for
Australia.
both of you. But obviously,
Yeah.
a very safe choice, but still, that's a huge shakeup for.
Yeah. It was a lot for the entire family, but this kind of there's a weird sense of duty and such because my grandfather, my dad's dad, he was a political activist. So it's just kind of
It
as
runs in
wild
your
as it was,
family.
was also kind of expected and normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I only started to unpack that and try to make sense of it on an emotional level in my mid-20s once I started going to therapy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, so I want to talk more about that, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that we see in the States as well when it comes to
Mm.
party lines
Yeah.
is you kind of just follow the party that you're born into and you don't
Hmm.
switch. If you switch, you kind of, depending on how deeply your family is political,
Yeah.
you lose your family. And
Yeah.
my family was all very much in one political party, which I
Hmm.
never really identified with.
Hmm.
Um, and then I tried for a little bit, I feel like, to try to fit in. I tried a little bit, and it just
Hmm.
always felt like gross because it was just
Yeah.
not the stuff I believed in. And when I split, my brother actually stopped talking to me completely.
Oh, wow. Sorry to
Um,
hear that.
that was well, it's fine. I don't think
Yeah.
we had a great relationship anyway. Um, but it was the first election in 2016. I made
Mm.
a comment, or I guess yeah, I made a
Which
comment.
state are you from? Or city?
So I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which
Okay.
is generally split pretty much down the middle in most cases
Yeah.
between Democrat and Republican.
Hmm.
And I was on the very liberal side. And my
Hmm.
mom growing up actually was not super Republican. I think it kind of started when we started going to church, which,
All
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
story as old as time, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That'll do it.
my whole family, but like her family was from the South. My dad's from Wyoming, which is super
Hmm.
Republican. So I just had it like from both sides. But yeah, where I grew up was actually Philadelphia is super liberal
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think that also impacted how I grew up because I didn't grow up in a very
Just with one
conservative.
view. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting, but it is, you see it in the States right now, especially. It's super, super polarized, and, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just getting
it's getting worse
more.
and worse. And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, my view on politics is, I think, influenced very heavily by my move here and the people that I've met here who are
Hmm.
more radical and more liberal. And I would say, I kind of always sit in this moving middle space of like, as things change, so does my experience of them. And so, you know, I
Hmm.
have some like mainstays of like human rights are for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves safety. Like, those are my things that do not change. But my view on
Hmm.
things kind of can change a little bit. I feel like that's the problem with the US is it's either this or it's
Yeah.
this. And we
Yeah.
hate each other. And the
Yeah.
reality is, why do you hate each other? Because actually a lot of you have the same goals in mind. You have different ways of wanting to go about
Hmm.
it, but you're actually very similar. You struggle with the same things, all because the people in government that you're idolizing, like, also, why are we idolizing politicians?
Yeah.
They're people, and that's also where we see the current situation. It tends to go wrong, is
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
put them up on this idealistic pedestal and you don't hold them accountable as they should
Absolutely.
be. They're elected officials. I think that's kind of what's going down very badly in the States right now, is that it
Yeah.
should be the people against what's not working in government, but instead
Yeah.
it's just people against people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did get the sense of that, like when I was reporting in America, that people often have their mind made up on any situation without hearing about it
Yeah.
before. So like context and nuance kind of seem to die out there. But I do think that is also by specific design. Like I think there are people who love the fact that it's like that and it's polarized as it is, because it's a bit easier
Absolutely.
to not do anything about it and to not be really accountable and to make money off it or gain power off
That's
it.
exactly
And
the thing, is I'm
yeah.
like, you know, if you're even slightly self-aware of
Mm,
anything going on as well, like outwardly aware, inwardly aware, do you not see who's profiting from
right.
all of this stuff? Do you not
Yeah.
see all the things that are risk, like redirection, misdirection of
Yeah.
things? Like, to your point, you're so right. It is 100%
Yeah.
by design. You know,
Yeah.
there's no
And
perfect
it's,
government. I mean, people look at
yeah.
Denmark and my friends in the States, and they're like, oh, but, you know, you live in Denmark and you have this. And I'm like, I love it here. Don't get me
Mm,
wrong, but no government is
yeah.
perfect,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
run by people. We're
Yeah.
inherently flawed. Like we're gonna fuck
Yeah.
up a lot. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
I
how
know.
it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really used to consume me so much, especially that 2015-16 campaign. It really, really, really consumed me. And I've really enjoyed being detached from it a bit more
Hmm.
now. Like haven't found the best way to describe it, but like a lot of the issues that used to bother me as a kid when I was still reporting and such, I can let go of now,
Mm.
because I'm noticing that those issues, they're perpetual in a way. So the amount of energy that I was giving into them started seeping into my own energy
Hmm.
into a very negative way.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm just really trying to focus more on the people around me. So I do have friends as well, like obviously from growing up in Australia, like it's a very broad political spectrum there, I believe. And I do have friends who have all sorts of views, and we can still respectfully disagree on a lot of things. And I do think we're losing that in general. Like we're
Yeah.
becoming more and more polarized, and I can't see a near-term solution to that.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my thing as well. Like, I have friends that voted for Trump, and I've discussed with
Yeah.
them why they vote for Trump. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt when women
Mhm.
I know voted for Trump. It does hurt a little bit for me personally, but I
Yeah.
respect their decisions and I want to have discussions about it because I don't
Yeah.
think that any good comes from not talking to each other. They're just shouting into echo chambers of your own
Yeah.
making versus
Absolutely.
talking. And it's the same thing with like if people can have a I like to have those type of discussions. I like to
Same.
understand where other people are coming from because generally I feel like both for myself and for other people, when we're able to have those conversations, it at least humanizes the conversation so you don't feel like it's me versus them. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, I don't agree with, because you shouldn't go into a discussion with, I'm going to convince you that you're wrong, right? That's immediately where we have this issue in the States is it's always,
Exactly.
I need to convince you that I'm right. And it's like,
Yeah.
maybe we just need to listen and understand because I can say I don't agree with your thinking around it, but at least I
Mhm.
can understand what's going on inside of you that you feel this
Mhm.
way. And sometimes we can have really good discussions
Mhm.
around, this thing, this because a lot
Mhm.
of times, propaganda is a thing. And people
Mhm.
think propaganda only happened during World War II. And it's like propaganda is all the time. It is
All the
constant.
time.
It
All
might
the
not look
time.
as cartoonish as what you're being seen in these like museums from World War II, but it's
Yeah.
it's constant. It's a constant stream. You have
Yeah.
to question the things you're being told. And I feel like that's something that I hope my children and their generation regain. Because I feel like
Yeah.
as a millennial, I don't know if it's not just our generation. It's kind of these, millennial,
Mhm.
maybe Z a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much Z because they did just overthrow the Nepalese government. So,
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
been
like
looking pretty gnarly.
they're they're maybe a little different, but I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of us have lost this critical thinking skill,
Yeah.
especially boomers and Gen X. Sorry guys, but it's true. Like they're just my mom, she'll be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And I'm like, "Mom, did you even like look into any of this stuff? Like none of this stuff. This is from like a 2014 article. It's completely
Right.
outdated. It has nothing to do with this thing. Like you can't just go, "Oh, good. That's what that is."
Especially now with like AI and stuff, I've seen certain relatives just
Yeah.
reposting or sharing certain videos. I'm like, this is clearly AI. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't real, right?
Yeah.
But it is scary times because I guess we tend to immediately feel comfortable with things that already agree with our perspective, of course.
100%, yeah.
And as long as it agrees with that, that's how the propaganda machine can just keep going and just keep growing
Mhm.
almost organically now.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I'm like part of my work of making people feel comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
I feel like it's so important to me in so many different ways because obviously I mainly work with people in terms of like healing trauma or helping
Mhm.
them go after dreams that they want that they have fears holding them back from. But part of
Mhm.
that is being uncomfortable and it ends up working really well in like all areas of your life because for example, I could not do silences with people. Like, if
Mm.
there was a silence in a conversation, I had to fill it. I
Yeah.
had to talk or something. It was so uncomfortable. And now I've gotten comfortable just like sitting if there's a silence and not feeling the need to fill that. And from
Mhm.
just an energetic perspective, I don't feel as drained when I have conversations or social
Mm.
interactions because I don't feel like I have to constantly be making sure everyone's okay or everybody has this or whatever. And
Yeah.
feeling uncomfortable and being uncomfortable is just part of life and it helps us grow and expand. So, to your
Yeah.
point of like, it's comfortable to hear what you already know, like, yeah, of course, but it keeps you stuck, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, you cannot grow within your comfort zone, right? So, but one thing as well about like the conversations and such, I genuinely feel that people begin a lot of these conversations with people they disagree with from the point of disagreement. Like that's where it starts.
Yeah.
So you don't even get the opportunity to build rapport to see what you may both agree on first. And then the things that you disagree on won't hit as sharp.
No.
It's a really fascinating
Also, just
fascinating time with that.
it's so late now that you forget that you're talking to a person with feelings
Yeah.
and, with a
Yeah.
family or with their own problems, and they have a shitty coworker that they don't like working with either.
Yeah.
Like, it's so dehumanizing the way we discuss stuff
Exactly.
because it's always in the comment section of social
Yeah.
media and articles. It's never like
Yeah.
anywhere else. You just because you're drawn to people that you like that are similar to you.
Hmm.
So you're always kind of having the same discussions in person, and you're not hanging out with people who you maybe don't have so
Yeah.
much in common with as an adult, right? Because if you think about when you're in school, you're forced to be around people you might not like
Yeah.
and might not get along with. But for the most part, there's definitely some shitty teenage years, but for the most part, you still can find a way to get along with this person or
Yeah.
be like, oh, this guy's a dick, but his dad's also a dick. So like you can
Yeah.
kind of understand a bit about people. And when you get to an adult level where you get to choose the situations and choose your friends, it's very empowering and great to do that. But it also means that you're not exposed to a lot of different viewpoints. If I had
Views.
stayed
Yeah.
in the States, I would have probably stayed a Republican who
Hmm.
was closeted, extremely liberal,
Hmm. Hmm.
Bernie
Hmm.
supporter who was like
Yeah.
secretly like, oh, go Bernie, but then like, oh yeah, immigrants, because that was who was in my circle. Not all my friends, Sydney, Kara, I'm not talking about you, but like everybody else was very, my family, my ex-boyfriend at the time, they were all super conservative. If I had
Hmm.
stayed in that, I mean, I wouldn't have maybe I would, but I probably wouldn't have left. It literally took moving here,
Yeah.
getting to know other people and communism or socialism was like super scary word. And now I'm like, no, I totally get some of the really good points of that. I understand. Like,
Right.
yeah, everybody should
Yeah.
be taken care of. Why is that not a thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when you're like in a country like this, right? Like socialism, they don't even see Bernie as
No,
radical or anything. They're
no.
like, this dude's pretty much centrist
He's like,
to
he might
them.
as well be Dansk Folkeparti over here. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
super
exactly.
he's conservative socialist
Yeah,
over here.
yeah, exactly. But how long ago did you move here then, and what inspired
Uh
that?
like 15 years ago.
Wow.
I was studying international business and I had to
Hmm.
do a study abroad. And it's a very long story, but I lived in Denmark when I was younger because my dad was in the military and he was stationed here. And
Right.
I think we came back to visit like twice and I just liked it. But my mom was always with me and I wanted to come back without her.
Hmm.
So my school had a deal with CBS. And so I came and studied over here. And then I met my husband. And yeah, so I was 21 when we met.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest is
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, and then 15 years over here, now I'm a Danish citizen, and I get asked a lot if like, "Oh, you ever gonna move back to the States?" And I'm like, I really don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know, you actually, this is a great question for you because you've
Hmm.
been Zimbabwe, Australia, and
Yeah.
here, and Sweden you also lived in for a point, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we did Sweden
I
for a
don't
little
feel
stint.
like I I don't wanna move back to the States because like, when I go visit the States, I don't feel American. And when
Mm.
I'm here, though, as a Dane, I
Yeah.
speak the language, I've assimilated and everything else, but I also don't feel Danish when I'm around Danes. So it's kind of this weird, I don't feel like I really belong
Yeah, yeah,
anywhere
yeah, yeah, yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I go to Zimbabwe, like obviously they hear my accent and my Shona, which is a local language there, isn't great. I immediately stand out, right? When I
Mm,
start speaking stuff. I'm covered in tattoos as well, which is really uncommon there. And yeah, when I'm in Australia as well, it's obviously being a black Australian, there's still a very, very small population of that.
right.
So that stands out as well. So yeah, I mean, but I do feel at home in many places.
Yeah.
And I think as well, I've got family all over. Like I've got family who I dearly love in Dallas, and I feel very at home in Dallas. I'm actually wearing a Cowboys shirt
Oh
right now.
no, I'm a
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles supporter.
Oh, you got
No,
nothing to worry
Kuda.
about. We're not going to win anything. So you got
Yeah.
nothing to worry
Okay.
about. At
Fair
least you
enough.
guys
Yeah.
win. So
I have to, speaking about things that are ingrained in you, I have to not like you now
yeah,
because of that. So
that's
sorry,
how
just gonna
sports
end the
go.
interview now. And yeah, wait, are you an Arsenal supporter or
I
Tottenham?
am
You're Arsenal,
Arsenal.
right?
Yeah, and
Right. Okay.
Andrew's
Yeah.
Tottenham. So
Yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah, my
yeah,
husband's Arsenal as well. Okay, sorry. So you have friends who live in Dallas. What
yeah.
or family who lives in Dallas, but
Yeah,
and you love it there.
love it
Um,
there. Absolutely love it there.
that must be interesting because Texas is an interesting state, to say
Very
the
interesting
least.
state. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
I
interesting
do
state.
love Texas. There's parts of
Mm.
Texas I love.
Yeah.
I like Austin. Have you been to Austin? Austin is
I've
great.
never been. No,
You would
I've
love
only ever been to
Austin.
Dallas.
So much art and
Yeah,
music
I
and
hear
culture.
that. I hear
It's
it's
so
such a
great.
vibe down there.
Yeah.
Definitely need to do an America trip at some point.
Maybe wait a few years, but yeah.
Yeah. Gotta like at some point. I mean, the last time I was there was 2016, and yeah, I got
Yeah.
love for Dallas. Got a lot of love for Boston as well.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Boston's great.
it's
Yeah.
so fun, so
Yeah.
fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really it's a
Wait, so how did
crazy
you
aspiration.
end up here?
Yes, so I am from Brisbane in Australia,
Yes. Wait, so
and
did you meet Andrew in
yeah, yeah,
Australia?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
right.
We're at the same school, yeah. So in Brisbane, we have a lot of Scandinavian exchange students, mostly Norwegian,
Mm,
who went to our university. So I had some really good friends from here, like from Copenhagen, who I like to visit routinely and such. And in summer 2022, I came here for a 6 week holiday just to visit friends, reconnect, and all sorts. And the day I landed, Andrew met me at the airport actually. He surprised me with a ticket to Roskilde, and I
lovely.
went, and I met my wife there that same
That's so
day. And
cute.
yeah, so I'm here because my wife's Danish,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. So you met your wife at, so if any of my American people are listening, Roskilde is a week-long music festival in the city of Roskilde in Denmark. And
yeah,
it's like Glastonbury, which I'm sure you've all heard of because of the fashion and everything.
yeah,
Or Coachella. It's like
yeah,
Coachella. Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
So you
exactly.
met your wife there and then you guys just fell in love. How long, like, were you doing long distance?
Yeah, so we both fancied each other from the moment we met each other, but
Oh.
we only found out like 4 weeks into my trip that the feeling was mutual.
Like, what a
Uh,
waste.
yeah, right. And I'd actually just moved back to Zimbabwe. I'd opened an art gallery, I'd started a brewery. So I was like very set on being in Zimbabwe for a while, and then I fucked up and fell in love. So
In the best
went,
way.
yeah, in the very best way, and then went back to Zimbabwe, told my family and such. We did long distance for 5 months, and she came down to Zim for just about a 2 week break, I think, right in the middle of the 5 months. And then I moved here in January 2023. Yeah.
Wow.
And we got married September 2023, and then we had our boy October last year.
Man,
So
when
yeah,
you
it
know,
moved
huh?
quick. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it moved, it moved quickly. Yeah, but
That's
when you know,
lovely.
you absolutely know. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also knew from the moment that I mean, we kind of laugh about it because my husband, God bless him, he is not quick on the uptake when people are flirting with him, which is great now. It's great for me now.
That was exactly me for sure.
Yeah. Like he needed it like very, very spelled out
Yeah,
for
use
him.
your words. Use your
Yeah.
words. I
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I literally, it's a raunchy story, but I would say I didn't use my words, but I definitely made it obvious I was interested in him. But when we first saw each other, like, so I came for this, it was just a summer study program.
Mhm.
And I had just gotten out of a really bad relationship and I wasn't actually really looking to meet anybody. I just wanted to get away.
And that's when it happens,
And
right?
that's when it
When you're not
happens. Yeah,
looking. Yeah.
exactly. When you're not expecting it. And he was getting his master's, and they asked him to help out with this mentorship program that they had
Right.
for international students. And part of that was helping out with these like events that they put on to help us have a good time, basically, in Copenhagen. So we weren't just sitting in our dorm rooms all the time.
Mhm.
And I joined that group, and there was a scavenger hunt in the city, and I saw
Oh,
him
fun.
standing on the steps of the Our Lady Church that's like right kind of in the center by that one. I don't know. It's like that big one where they always have the concerts. I saw him
Yeah.
standing on the steps there, and I looked at the two girls I was with, and I was like, that guy's mine. He's mine.
Wow. You
And
just knew without even a
I did.
word.
Yeah. Actually, it was, it was probably good he hadn't said a word first because he had a very thick Danish accent when we first started dating. And so
Right,
when
right,
he
right.
did start speaking for this scavenger hunt, I was like,
What are
what?
you saying?
What are you talking about? I think the first couple years of our relationship were him saying things and me going, yeah, sure. He was so cute. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, it did go very fast. I mean, did you move to Sweden now?
Yes, so we had to move to Sweden after we got married because complicated immigration laws here. But
Mm-hmm.
if a Danish person marries a non-European,
Mm-hmm.
there's two main options for him. So it's either you have to pay 100,000 krona that
Which
they
is like, oh God, math.
like 20,
20,000? Yeah.
yeah, like 20,000 American dollars, and
Oof.
the state holds on to it for the next 10 years, and essentially that's your safe kitty for
Yeah.
being able to get access to healthcare and all sorts of things. And
Yeah.
I do believe they eventually give it back to you after the 10 years.
Well, you don't really get it back. They release it. So
Yeah.
usually you have to get the loan from the bank and then they just say you don't need it anymore. So you stop
Okay.
paying payments on it. But yeah,
Yeah.
you have to pay payments on it the whole time.
Yeah. And we just, yeah, we couldn't afford that at that point. So the other option was to move to an EU country, a different
Mm-hmm.
EU country, and then do it through the EU law, which is slightly different. And yeah, so because she was working here and Malmö, which is South Sweden, is conveniently close. It's 2 stops
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
We ended up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a very, very tough period because we were also going through fertility at that point, like IVF.
Oh,
T-
okay. I didn't know you
yeah,
did that. I did that as well.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
never know. There's so many like yeah,
No. I talk
yeah,
about it all the time because I feel like there's
yeah,
some people who just don't know that it's a thing and it is such an
yeah.
isolating, hard journey to go through.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I know. And then you talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I had to do 2 years of IVF. And you're like, oh, yeah, me
Yeah.
too with both my kids. And they're like, what?
No way. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did that while she was still working and commuting every day, and I think it took her like close, maybe an hour and a half each way because
Yeah.
she was working in Belarus at the time.
Oof.
And I wasn't allowed to work or leave Sweden in that period. So it was extremely isolating. But we
Yeah.
did that, did our stint, and now I'm here. And
Yeah.
it's all legal, all square, all fine.
I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who did that actually. So when I first moved here 15 years ago, immigration policy was still strict, but it wasn't nearly as strict as it is now. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to say also I'm a white American woman, so for me it was a very different situation than it is for a
Yeah.
lot of other people who live here. Like I just had to have the guarantee in the bank, which I don't quote me on this, but I think it was half of what you just said. I think it was only 50,000.
Hmm.
And then we had to have his parents sign a paper that said we were living with them
Hmm.
and fill out the paperwork. And that was kind of it. It was a very simple
Right.
process
Yeah.
as long as I had those things in place for me anyway.
Right.
But
Right.
we had one of his best friends is a very decorated OBGYN doctor
Hmm.
here. And he married a woman from Brazil. And they
Hmm.
ended up having to live in Malmo for I think like 3 or 4 years till she got her passport for
Jeez.
Sweden. And so he ended up working in one of the Swedish hospitals and there was a lot of news coverage about it because they were like talking exactly about like we're
Mm.
losing qualified people to other countries because of our immigration policies with their spouses and it's just, you know,
Yeah.
it's
It's
ridiculous.
it's such a hassle. I mean, part of it kind of felt like, is this just a test to see like how
You
how
actually you actually
do
are
you
together
love each
and
other? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what an experience that was. And it was really, really testing, but it brought us so much closer, and yeah.
But I also feel like those are the kind of things I wish more people went through. And I mean this in a
Hmm.
loving way, but because I think it makes you more empathic
Hmm.
to other people who have to go through it. Because I think, like in
Yeah.
the States,
Yeah.
we're dealing a lot with immigration policy right now, and people
Yeah.
have no empathy for people who want to
Yeah.
immigrate to the US. And I think
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous because it's like these people are coming here because they want to contribute, they want to have a better life, and you're
Hmm.
making it hard for them. And you're
Hmm.
not considering what this is like for them. Like when the war broke out with Russia and Ukraine, my mom was like, if it gets really bad, just move home. And I was like, no, this is my home here. And she
Yeah.
was like, yeah, but then you can just leave. And I was like, okay, just to put out an example here. So you're saying if there's war in my country, you
Hmm.
want me to leave to go somewhere else where there's not war, so I'm safe. And she's like,
Hmm.
yeah. And I'm like, Mexicans who are
Hmm.
coming to the States to escape violence so their children and families can be safe,
Hmm.
should they be allowed to live in the United States legally so that they can be safe and they're
Hmm.
contributing and following all the laws? She's like,
Hmm.
well, it's different. I'm like, it's not. It's not different. I even had that with taxes. I think I spent the first 10 year of my life, not 10 years, 7 years of my life here in Denmark complaining about how high the taxes were.
Yeah.
I was very much a stickler on the high taxes. But then when I had my second daughter, I ended up going into labor 3 months early.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were obviously in the hospital for, I think, 2 months total. And she was
Right.
around the clock in the NICU. She had one of her lungs collapsed and they had to reinflate it. And she had wires all the time and constant care. And I was able
Jesus.
to be in the hospital with her the whole time with all of my food taken care of,
Mhm,
round the clock care. And Morton and I switched shifts because we still had our oldest at home.
mhm.
But we were there for 2 months of this with constant daily tests, constant checkups, constant care, everything. And then the day that they were like, okay, you can go home now, you can take your baby home. And I was like, okay, well, where do I need to go, like sign out or pay for anything? And they were like, no, you're okay. You just go home. And it was
Yeah.
like literally that moment where I was like, everyone should have this
Right?
because God
Yeah.
forbid your child doesn't survive and you have to
Yeah.
leave the hospital without a child and you still
And a
have like
bill.
$500,000. Or my
Yeah.
dad had a heart attack when he was over here one time and he had to get an ambulance and stay in the hospital overnight. And he did the same thing. He's like, where's the billing department? And they were like, nope, you're taken care of. And he was like, what?
What?
Sometimes I feel like it's really good for people to experience difficult situations
Yeah.
so they can empathize.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, empathy it's such a key trait that we need to keep as human beings. And I do, like we was talking about earlier, I do think it is eroding a bit more. Maybe I'm online too much.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because again, I think because we're not crossing party lines or we're not talking to people with different opinions, we're not getting different life experiences. So you
Right.
can't
Yeah.
empathize with, transgender people, for example. Like if you don't know
Hmm.
any transgender people, your view of them is most likely what you've been
Hmm.
fed or what you have experienced. And as soon as you
Absolutely.
meet a transgender person and you hear their experience, I feel like how can it not change your view,
Right? Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We need a lot more, yeah, just genuine human connection.
Yeah.
I do wonder how that can happen though. I keep wondering how
Mm,
that can happen just because there is almost
That's a
like
tough
it's like we're
question.
bloodthirsty or something. It's really
Yeah.
Roman Colosseum days
Yeah.
when it
I
comes
take
to
a
it.
very, well, I always try to do everything with like a practical and a spiritual lens. So,
Mm,
from a practical standpoint, I'm raising my kids a lot with empathy. Like, even
mhm,
last night when I was putting my eldest to bed, she was
mhm.
talking about who in her class has crushes because now they're starting to have like little boyfriends and girlfriends.
Wow.
And she was talking about all the girls that like the boys and all the boys that like the
Yeah.
girls. And so I said, is there anybody in your class who maybe feels differently? Like maybe they like a girl who likes another girl or somebody who doesn't
Mhm.
feel like they fit in either category.
Wow.
And she was like, no, I don't think so. I think that we're all straight. And I was like, okay, well, I just hope that people feel safe I hope that you and your class and for you feel safe to come to you
Wow.
if anything, because when I was growing
Yeah.
up, that wasn't a thing. And a
Yes.
lot of
Same.
times kids will not be honest about it, or they might even not really realize until they're older. So I hope you guys just make sure that, you're safe about it. So from a practical standpoint, I'm trying to raise my kids that way,
Mhm, mhm.
that, it's
Yeah.
little things like that, I think that
Yeah.
help, you know,
How would you describe your, I guess not religious views, but like, yeah, your
my
spiritual views
spiritual
or,
views.
yeah.
My spiritual views are very similar to, I guess, the way I approach everything in life. I feel like this way, but
Right.
they're very open. So I would say most things are based off my experience and what I personally believe. And so therefore, because right now I don't know how spiritual you are, but you know, to your point about how we change it, there is some sort of shifting going on in the collective
Mhm,
energetically that people who are attuned, we can all feel it. So I think there is going to come some sort of, I don't know if it's going to inspire empathy necessarily. I hope it
mhm.
does, but there is something happening, I feel like, where the younger generations and some and the older are starting to feel a shift in how we relate to each other and how we actually, I don't want to say who the enemy is because I don't really like defining anyone as good or bad. I think there's
Yeah.
good actions and
Yeah.
bad actions and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think there's beginning to be a change in how we view who needs to be held accountable. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that that continues. And then in terms of my spirituality in general, it's very much like today it's this, and I could experience something else tomorrow, and that might slightly shift something else. Like I feel like to some of my friends, I'm probably getting crazier. And to other of my friends who are spiritual, they're like, yes, of course. Like, I
Mhm.
guess it kind of depends on where you're sitting, but it is very spiritual. I believe pretty much that as long as what you are believing in and doing, if it is helpful to you and not harmful to others, you should have a go at it. Just
Mhm.
whatever works. That's kind of where I
Yeah.
sit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I was raised non-religious, but yeah, had friends and all sorts who were across the main, yeah, I guess you could call them the big three, of the
Hmm.
Abrahamic religions and such.
Yeah.
Then well, how old was I? Like 18, 19. Met a Buddhist for the first time.
Hmm.
And I did like the whole Buddhist retreats, 10-day silent retreats, things like that. And I was pretty
Hmm.
heavily involved with that. Lost it and then kind of got back into it like 3 or so years ago. But the reason I asked that is because I'm always so curious as a parent, like, how do you raise your kids when
Very
they
open.
ask you about, yeah, when they ask you about questions like that?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they learn Christianity in the Danish public school. So
Hmm.
I was raised very Christian. I have
Hmm.
a bit of religious trauma around that, especially as a woman.
Mm.
I won't say that I haven't. No, I will say, I'll be honest. I have an issue with the Abrahamic religions.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and mainly because they're told from a time very long ago
Yeah,
where women were property, and
exactly.
and I
Yeah.
think people kind of, again, back to the critical thinking, there's nothing that I don't read or hear that I don't sit with and try to understand if that's something that feels right to me, or
Hmm.
look more into like different sources of it. And I think that the Bible was written by many different people at many different times with many different political things that they wanted to accomplish
Yeah.
and different views, and that's very clear in the Bible. And when you even start to pull on that thread a little bit, you start to see how it unravels with you know who was responsible. But you can go as far back as mythology. I love mythology, but
Hmm.
the most well-known Norse mythology by Snorri, I think his last name was Snorri Sturluson, from
Right.
Iceland, the Eddas. They were they were written by a Christian man, so
Right.
it's quite possibly, seen through
Edited
that
or,
lens. Yeah.
yeah.
And, a lot of the original matriarchal societies that the Bible borrowed from example, then they were demonized. And
Hmm.
so my kids are learning Christianity in school. I think it's good that they learn it. As far as I understand, the way that they teach Christianity, Islam, and Judaism in school. So they learn all
Right.
about the three Abrahamic. I wish they taught about Jainism and Buddhism and all these other more peaceful
Right.
religions, but
Yeah.
they learn about it from a very like, this is what it is standpoint. So it's okay. And they
Yeah.
come home with questions and we talk about it. But
Hmm.
I'm very open with my kids when they ask certain things of like, these are all mythology, and you
Yeah.
can't take them as this is exactly what it is. These were ways that people explained the unexplainable
Hmm.
back in that
Hmm.
time. Like that's why if you look at Hindu mythology, Greek, obviously Greek and Roman are basically the same thing with
Yeah.
different names, Norse mythology, Celtic mythology, when you look at the gods and goddesses in the stories, there's so many similarities because these people were living similar lives
Yeah.
depending on when these stories were written. And a lot of the gods and goddesses, I think, are based off of the energies that they were working with at the time and they were feeling. So therefore, they all felt, there's a love goddess, and they all have similar,
Yeah.
characteristics because they were probably all working with the same kind of energy. That's just
Yeah.
how they explained it. And
Yeah.
I'm psychic, and my kids know that I'm psychic,
Uh,
and they
What
see
does
some
that
of the
mean?
that I'm
As in,
psychic?
yeah, I actually don't know what that means.
Oh, really? Okay. All
Yeah.
right, cool. No, this would be great.
Is that the
Maybe
word
there's
that
other
I
people
know?
listening.
If that,
For me, psychically, I connect with, I call them spirit guides. I've talked about this before. I don't like labels of things because I just feel
yeah.
them as energy, but I think of them as like spirit guides. Some people call them angels, some people call them goddesses, kind of whatever
Hmm.
resonates with you. I can connect to them for people, or like, people whose loved ones have passed.
Right.
I
Right. Right.
sometimes can connect with them. That's not something that I mainly practice in. So that seems to be more like when I'm doing work with somebody, like coaching work,
Hmm.
sometimes like someone will come in because they have a message they need to understand to heal something, or like a generational thing or something. But I don't really
Hmm.
focus on past loved ones. There are a lot of people who do that.
Hmm.
I tend to connect more to people's energies, spirit guides, and people themselves. So like if I'm doing coaching with someone or I'm just doing a psychic reading, I will connect with the person. And sometimes their spirit guides come in with messages, and sometimes their higher self comes in with messages. And a lot of times I can just feel what's going on in that person. So I can, be like, this is kind of what's going on within you. This is what you're going through at the moment. And then that's when the spirit guides will come in and be like you were talking about art, for example. Like I get a lot of that kind of stuff from people's spirit guides. Like I'll be like, your spirit guide told you or says that you would do really well with journaling out this pain. That's going to be helpful. And then I would say 99% of the time, whatever kind of comes through for them is what works. Or like I had a client who her inner child guide came through. And she was thinking of inner child healing as like a really heavy thing where you have to like deal with the pain of your inner child, which it can be. But her inner child came through to be like, I want you to just focus on joy. I just want you to go have fun like you were a kid. I want you to reconnect with your inner child through having fun and being childlike. And that's going to be really healing for you in this moment versus dealing with all the really hard stuff right now. That's going to be too much for you. This is something that you should try. And then a lot of times they get reinforced this kind of messaging or something. So for me, that's it. I'm just kind of connected, but like it can come in weird ways. Like one time, I'm much better at closing myself off now. I wasn't before. So I didn't realize, for example, being at parties or being in big groups of people, I would drink a lot. And I always thought that it was like, I just needed that to be in that space. But now I've come to realize it was because I didn't know how to close off what I was getting. And I was just getting everyone's stuff all the
you're
time,
just
everyone's
absorbing
energy.
it.
So it was too much. So I still really don't go to huge crowds. It still is a little overwhelming. But sometimes, like, if I'm out to dinner or something, I can feel like someone's past loved one will come in and they want to, like, say something. And I have to be like, sorry, but no, I can't do it right now. So sometimes it comes in like, weird situations. But most of the time, it's only when I open up to it.
Yeah. So you've like, as you've been able to recognize it more, you've been able to control it more.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
superpower.
I mean, I think it's a gift. I think of it as like it's a gift, but it's an ability that everybody has. So I also work with people to help them tap into their psychic gifts. Or sometimes a lot of the time it's just your intuition. Because I do a lot of stuff where rational thinking people are like, that makes no sense. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you this. This is the guidance I'm getting. This is what I got to do. And it always works out, not always in the way you expect it to work out, but like, this is a great example. I was going to Pilates yesterday. And at the last minute before I left, I got this nudge to do something. And I was like, my rational mind was like, no, you can't do that right now because you're going to be late for Pilates. And I was like, yeah, but I feel like I need to do it right now. So I did it. And I was late for Pilates, which seemed like a shitty thing because I was like, fuck. I wanted to go to Pilates.
Now I'm late.
Now I'm late. But then when I got there, the woman was like, oh, we gave away your spot because you weren't here. And so I was like, ugh. So I left and I went down to the cafe underneath. And when I went down to the cafe underneath, there was a woman who I had been meaning to talk to for a really long time about being on the podcast sitting in the cafe. So sometimes your intuition will lead you where you need to be, not necessarily where you think you need to go. So I would say, to your point, it's not something I control. It's something I've learned how to understand and work with. And sometimes, and you have to, the whole point of being spiritual is you really learn to let go of all control, like completely. And there's a lot of people who are intuitively connected and don't realize it. I talk about my husband all the time. He's so incredibly intuitive and has absolutely no idea.
Wow.
But he just is very, very connected. And I personally feel like people who are artists who do art are probably very connected with maybe not realizing it, because when you are expressing that soul, when you're doing those things, you connect to your intuition a lot because you shut off your rational brain. So I think it would be really interesting to talk after you do this experiment that you're doing where you're not already knowing the outcome, because you might end up being very guided by your intuition in what comes out. It'd be interesting.
I really, I'd love to. I really hope I can let go of that piece of control a bit more so that it can just go back to, like you said, the intuition, or just like letting it flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just letting it like come out.
Letting go of control is quite possibly the hardest thing that
It's
I've
so
had
hard.
to do.
It's so hard because like you're so
It is.
trained to be, like really here and
Yeah.
rational, like you said, and like so focused into something. But yeah,
And also the
there's such
outcome,
a
right?
yeah, and also
Because
the
you're like, if
outcome.
I just do these steps, like for example, with your art, like you know what you want to create, you know how to get there. So you're like,
Yeah,
I do these steps and I will get here. And then if you're
yeah,
doing an uncontrolled process, what comes out of it might not be what you necessarily
yeah,
wanted, or and you have to get okay with, okay, I don't care about the outcome. I'm just going to follow it anyway.
yeah. Wow, yeah, it's gonna be a very challenging experience, but I'm so excited about it. I'm
Thank
so
you so
excited
much
about
for
it.
being on today, Kuda. This was such a
Aw,
lovely talk.
thank
I'm
you
going to
so
try to
much.
come to your show next week. I have
Yeah,
both kids, so I might not
awesome.
be able to make it, but
They
otherwise
can
I'm going to
come.
try to bring them. Yeah, they came last time, I think, to the last art show
Yeah,
I
yeah,
came to. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'll definitely try to come, and I will put your information in the show notes so people can find you, because I really love your art and I think everybody should check it
Thank
out.
you. I
And
appreciate that so
yeah.
much.
And you also share
Awesome.
like such lovely uplifting things on your Instagram, and nice
Thank you.
messages and stuff, and good song recommendations too. So it's a good follow.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
so very welcome. I hope that you have the best day. And to everyone listening, I will talk to you soon. Have a great week.
Awesome. You too. See
Bye.
ya. Bye.